Hi everyone, and welcome to our episode 7 of Brag, our series where we chat with leading AI experts about the journey building AI software. I'm Valeria Gomez from Pinecone, and Luis Morales, VP of Engineering at Help Scout, is joining us today, and he will be sharing insights about how they're helping support teams amplify the efforts and have more meaningful conversations ultimately with AI. Before we dive in, you know the drill. We will love to hear from all of you. This is also your space, so feel free to share your questions, your comments in the Q&A kind of box below, and we will answer as many as we can towards the end of the conversation. Hi, Luis, welcome. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Luis, what about we just kind of kick things off and you just tell us a little bit about your journey at Help Scout, maybe kind of set the stage for those folks that are unfamiliar with Help Scout, and tell us a little bit what Help Scout is and just kind of your role with the engineering team at your company.
Yeah, I've been at Help Scout for almost 4 years now. In a couple of months, that will be 4 years. I till recently was the director of platform engineering here at Help Scout. I recently became the VP of engineering, now responsible for all of the engineering group here, platform and product engineering. We started our journey towards AI about last year, mid last year, something like that. And I've been building that team and working on the features that we now have. I'm currently responsible for all of the engineering group and all of the efforts that we're doing towards Help Scout. We currently have about 3 AI features with a fourth about to come out. Help Scout is a customer focused help desk that as you know, we are very customer centric. We like our customers a lot. We think that is one of the things that make support special, when you have that relationship and someone that is actually helping you. So we focus a lot on that, and all of our features are greatly focused towards helping that experience be as human as possible and making our users be able to dedicate time and effort and having the right context to help their customers the best they can.
That's so great. So it's still that you started your journey with AI a few months ago, excuse me, it seems like last year. And I really love the position that Help Scout is, kind of amplifying and help us support teams kind of be better at their work rather than kind of replacing them. So you started your journey a few months ago. I want to know, I have a poll right now. Let's kind of see where everybody is here in the journey with AI. Just take a couple seconds just to kind of share with us where you are in your journey. Are you just starting to learn and experiment with small projects, or you are right now actually building and you are having solutions already deployed, or you're scaling, you have multiple AI applications in the market? Let's see. People are still kind of answering. I'm always curious to see where people are. It's like, it's a very hot topic, but people are taking time to really understand how to include their AI strategy in their work.
It's definitely very interesting. We usually talk to friends in the industry and share notes on where we are, and it is so widely different from everyone on their steps they're in.
It is. So let's share the poll right now. Let me see. Can you see this?
Yes.
Perfect. So it seems like we're kind of widely distributed. We have about 30% of the attendees saying that they're just learning. 52, they're already building. This is great. And about 18% of them are scaling. So yeah, we can see here, everybody's, hopefully this conversation is going to help you a little bit to understand what Help Scout is doing. I'm going to stop sharing these. Let me go back. So many screens to kind of look at, so I apologize for that. So now, Luis, we know that everybody's like a little bit everywhere in their journey with AI, especially for those 30% that are just kind of learning right now, and those also kind of 52% scaling their applications. I love your approach to kind of human centricity around AI. So maybe can you kind of talk us a little bit more how that ties to your mission? And I know you guys took a little bit of time to kind of really see how AI can help your, you know, support teams. So maybe can you walk us and kind of share some insights around that and your thought process and just why just kind of human centricity is so important for you?
Yeah, we strongly believe that great customer support is just great for business. So that's one of our mantras at Help Scout. That was the initial vision and mission back 13 years ago when the founders created the company, and I think that's more now than ever. That's the goal, right? We really try to we there's several ways that AI nowadays can help people, but there's also several ways that it cannot. So we really focus on how we can make that experience be valuable to customers, like how can that provide an actual value to our users and to their customers on a daily basis. So we thought a lot about that, and we have a thing in here where one of the features or feature sets that we call superpowers to our users, and that's how we saw AI. How can we give more superpowers to these users to be able to handle their customer base in a more efficient way so that they can provide more personalized and that human touch service that they would like to do. So everything we build from that point of view a lot of the time.
I love that superpowers. And I mean, I think everybody's really familiar with customer support, either because you have reached out to one of your vendors and you know, it's very fascinating when actually the support person is approachable, right? And really kind of gets to know you a little bit. So you kind of mentioned you have 3, 4 AI features. So maybe you can share a little bit more about them and maybe tell me which one is your favorite.
Yeah, we started with the very basics. So we have what we call AI Assist, which is it you can use it through our text editors across the application,
Mhm.
which basically allow you to modify your text with, you know, be more longer, shorter, try to change the tone, things like that that help a little bit to write faster. That was our first feature, very basic. And then one of the things that happen is that sometimes customers do have more complex issues that require more back and forth, and sometimes that can span across a couple of days. What happened there is that more than one person can end up helping you in a conversation.
That's
So we have a summary feature that allows you to summarize all of the conversation through multiple individuals, and that allows you to get into a customer having help and just get the summary, get the quick context of what's happening, and allow you to focus faster on what the next steps should be with that person. After that, we wanted to we wanted to create something that will get into the realm of that magic that AI is supposed to give you. And we started working on a feature that we now call AI drafts, which basically means that when you have that enabled and you receive a conversation from a customer, we are going to use all of the data available in the platform, and we're going to generate a draft response automatically for you. So whenever you get into that conversation, you already have a response there ready to go that you can just read, validate, edit if you need to, and send that away to your customer. Just trying to reduce the amount of time they need to gather all of the information required to correctly answer one of the customer's requests. Um, those are the ones that you can find now live in the site. And we're working on a fourth one, which is called AI Answers, which is our chat style interface to get support. So we're still working on that. That is currently in closed beta to a few customers. And basically, we're just trying to leverage all of the knowledge that the customers have in the platform so that we have a simple text-based interface where someone can request help and we can try to give an answer instantaneously. One of the things that we did with that you can find with a lot of the tools out there is that AI, especially generative AI, is very creative with the responses and sometimes will not get things right. So whenever that happens, we put a lot of effort in detecting when that happens and connecting
Mhm.
that person with a real human as soon as possible, so that there's no kind of frustration or bad interaction with the support tool.
Yeah, hallucinations is a real problem for AI, especially now if you're talking about support, customer support that is actually my information as a user, or, we don't want it to make things up. So, um, of all of these kind of four AI features, let's kind of take one so we can explain a little bit more to the audience how they work. Um, and it's up to you whichever you want to kind of go a little bit deeper into. But if we take one of them and if we want to kind of share insights for these kind of people that are still learning, what kind of like AI techniques or machine learning, methodologies are you using to make sure that they are working properly and also kind of eliminating hallucination, right?
Yeah, I think it's funny because I was reading the poll and I feel like you can feel like you're in one of those steps, but in reality, especially nowadays with AI, I think that we're all on all of them at the same time. Because I don't think the learning has stopped. If we use AI drafts as an example,
Mhm.
which I think is one of our more mature features right now, uh, I feel like we're use all of the techniques, past and future. We're constantly trying new things to improve the process. So we're definitely using third-party providers, including but not limited to OpenAI, Anthropic, probably two of the biggest ones that we use. For all of the text generation, classification, embeddings, all of that, we obviously use Pinecone as our vector database of choice for similarity search. And we also use another tool that I think is very key to what we use called FreePlay, which is what we use for quality evaluation, data set management, and prompt engineering. That is like the one tool we use to base every time we change something, everything goes through there because it's how we know how things are working. Our primary technique for sure is RAG.
Right.
That is what grounds everything we do. We think it's the easiest and best way right now to ground LLM knowledge when we're passing anything through a language model nowadays. Uh, we, I think, in a nutshell, basically what we do is when we receive a conversation or when someone asks a question, we use that to do a similarity search. From there, we take all of the available similarities that we get back. So we take previous to that, we just take a corpus of all of the documents and knowledge. We embed that, we chunk it, we send it to Pinecone. Once we get a question back, that question gets embedded again, and we use that to run that similarity search. And then from that data that we get back, there may be some other steps in between, but basically we use that to send as a context to the LLM and get a response back. We're constantly adding features and verifying how things are working because hallucinations are a problem. I like to think as hallucinations as a feature, not a problem, because I think that LLMs are just big hallucination machines that you just need to give them the correct information to get the hallucination that you want back. But because of that, and because we don't want to give hallucinations back that are incorrect to our customers,
Mhm.
we do fact checking using LLMs to verify that the data that we're outputting is actually correct. We may do question classifications because people ask questions in very different ways, and sometimes the LLMs just do not have the context to understand what the question is about. So we may run the questions through different classifications to try to understand what they're actually asking about and route that question to the correct places. When dealing with things that have historical context require, we also handle that, and the correct historical context is passed to the LLM to verify what we're doing. And then uh, not so much in draft, but more in answers. Sometimes there are more follow-ups, and we need to figure out what things are about. So we do clarifications, and depending on what the customer is asking, we may ask back clarifying questions to further ground the LLM response. So I think that in a nutshell, that is more or less what we're doing right now.
So you take all the information, it seems, from like the knowledge base that I assume that is from Health Scout, right? So it takes like different kind of forms, but also you take conversations, right? That's in comes in like email, right?
Yeah.
Do they come from somewhere else? I don't know, like
We
chat or
we have several sources for conversations at Health Scout. Right now, that can be chat, or that can be Facebook or Instagram, that kind of channels.
okay.
So everything that is a conversation in our database is potentially used for answers. We have an algorithm, and we filter through depending on the things that we're looking for, to because we don't usually search everything, because that's too much, and
Mhm.
similarities may be a thing in there. So we have some ways to clear up that and limit the search.
And with all of this information, right? It seems like every single customer has different sources of information. How do you chunk all of this information, or what kind of strategies do you implement? Especially like there is a lot of information, I guess, coming frequently for more if they have more conversations with the support agent. How to prioritize those, and yeah,
I,
overall, what is your strategy there?
I think it's complicated to talk about a single strategy, because one of the things that happen is that we have no control over the structure of the information, that
Mhm.
that customers organize their things um, how they like. So for conversations, it's a little bit easier, because we usually don't even need to chunk. They are smaller enough that we don't need to. So if whatever happens with the conversations, we tend to chunk it just based on length, and that's about it. Um, for knowledge bases, that's a different thing. We we chunk based on length, but there's certain levels of overlap between the content when we chunk it. That overlap depends. As far as I know, the team
Mm.
is constantly tweaking that, and looking for new ways to play with that. We're also exploring other things lately to help with that. Like, we're toying around with the idea of custom models and fine tuning to especially tailored towards improving how we can organize the content better, and chunking strategies, and moving everything through that point of view. So there's like no easy answer, but that's more or less what we do. We just try things, and sometimes maybe different things depending on different customers.
And the support agent ultimately has the power to either use the draft or not, right? That's which is the most important thing. There is also like the human component that is not removed from the process, kind
Yeah,
of make this.
human in the loop is always going to be there for us.
That's the key. We talk about a little bit of the challenges about like all these unstructured data, but I want to kind of understand a little bit more of those technical challenges that your team face while developing all of these 3, 4 kind of AI features. Any kind of top of mind that that you can kind of share a little bit more about those technical challenges that you have to really overcome as a team.
I I think that the two biggest challenges that we face every day is how to improve search similarity wise. We up till now been using Pinecone a lot. We may now start using hybrid approach and using keyword based and similarity based. Um, we're also been exploring going a little bit beyond that and saying, should we start graphing our knowledge bases so that we can find relationships easier between content so that we can give better context to the AI? That is complicated and expensive time-wise to iterate over because it's all an effort. There's a lot of custom development to get to those sort of solutions. And the other big challenge, because it's also very time consuming, is quality. Uh, quality is a wording I don't like because it's so generic that you don't usually know where to go. But we have a team dedicated to understand what, first of all, dedicated to understand what quality means. What are the actual attributes of quality that we're looking to improve and work on, and then um, going through all of the data. Uh, while we do have a pipeline of different things to validate automatically, we actually use LLM evaluators to go through the
Mhm.
data and try to figure out what's good and what's not. It's still LLM based, so it can be more or less accurate depending on the data that's present. So we have actual humans going through that data every once in a while.
Really.
Yeah, they're evaluating on themselves comparing to what the LLM is outputting, and we have several data sets that we go through every time we do a change, just to evaluate that the quality is there in all of the different metrics that we set that we're interested in. So that is the biggest challenge that we have because it's so time consuming. You need to go through like thousands of iterations and you know not only see the result from the LLM but see what we're inputting into the LLM to get that result. And depending on conversations, that's a lot of data to go through.
Yeah. Constant improvement is nonstop. Let's insert data and leave it like that, especially with conversations and customer interactions. They're ever evolving. I do have another poll. I would like to know, what are some of the challenges our audience is also facing? So this is very generic, right? But based on, what I have seen, but access to quality data is one, more accuracy and performance, high cost, or budget constraints. Let's see what folks um, say here. But yeah, say access to quality data and more accuracy, especially with hallucinations, I think it's everybody's challenges, right?
I think hallucinations are it it depends. Like it's an interesting concept because I think that most of the time hallucinations just come down to not having good enough context. So working on that part of the pipeline is probably the most important thing you can do. Like making sure that the grounding context you're giving to the LLM is the correct context and the correct amount of context to reduce hallucinations. And I think you can get to like very respectable numbers, like way reduce hallucinations by 90, 95, 96% is very possible with the correct context. Moving beyond that is a little bit trickier because LLMs are still very good at being creative. Uh, but I think that's the key, like having the correct knowledge to pass to the LLM to get the correct answers,
Yeah.
which puts Pinecone like in the center of, hey, I want to get my similarities the best I can so I can give my LLM the correct context window.
Yeah, starting with the data that you need is, I think, is a very important part of that any AI application pipeline. Let's share the results to see where everybody is. So we have 23% access to quality data, 58% model accuracy and performance, and about 20%, 19% high cost or budget constraints. So I think very in line with what we have been talking today, probably what we have seen in this industry. I mean, it's just unbelievable how much things are changing, and we change, right? and looking ahead, and with all this investment that your team is being kind of doing lately with AI, any expansions or anything excited that you are excited for HelpScout around AI? I know you have the fourth AI feature kind of in beta right now, but anything else that you think that, or any feedback from your customers,
Yeah,
something that they want you to implement?
we're um, we're actually launching a test today of more AI features. So one of the, I think, exciting things that we're doing is that um, we're just we're just starting to like explore more playfully with AI, and we're just sprinkling a little bit of Gen AI here and there in the application, where it's not even something conscious that the user is choosing, but
Mm-hmm.
they are getting the benefits from that. So little day-to-day things that you don't even notice, we're just starting to add Gen AI to guide customers through the interface or through list of data, where we're just using it to point to like, hey, this may be more interesting to you for checking now
That's
than this other
interesting.
thing. So um, there's nothing that we know if it's going to stick or not, but
Mm-hmm.
we're starting to use it that way a lot through the UI now to explore, and we're just leaving people to think more about that. And the team is always thinking. We have an internal document where everyone uses like a wish list of, oh, I would like AI to do this or that. And one of the nice things when you go through that is something that I love about our team is that they deeply care about the customer. So when you go through that list, that you see all of that superpowers dim of they
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to make all of our users better at their day-to-day job.
Mm. And besides of kind of guiding the your users through kind of this journey, right? Anything else based on your experience, right? You have been in customer support, customer experience for a while. Also, your experience as an engineer. I know from our previous conversations that you're very curious. Uh, any vision that you think is going to be the role of AI in customer support, or where it's going to kind of evolve in the next years? Not just, not with AI, but like when also like the technology is more grounded, or maybe expectations from customers or
Uh,
end users, I should say.
there's expectation from like both sides, end users and customers for sure. Um, I will say that I think enhanced customer efficiency is something that will continue to have like a significant role in automating routine tasks and handling common queries. I think freeing up the human in the loop is is going to be a focus, because tools become more complex, services have more things. You have to, every time you get an inquiry from a customer, it can be incredibly complicated to know where to get the answer from. So giving them tools where when you get a question, you have all of the possible context to answer, or a possible answer based on all of that context from like several sources, uh, will just become more and more important and common, because you know everyone wants a lot of customers. At some point, handling all of that support is very
Mm-hmm.
complicated. This will be like the less time you can spend on a single inquiry,
Right.
while still giving the same level of personalized support, and that quality that will keep customers happy is going to be paramount um, in the whole next few years, using AI. I think that's going to be there. I think we're starting to see that now, like with our drafts and AI answers, and it will
Mm-hmm.
just keep getting better. Some other thing that I haven't seen yet, but I think will come at some point in the future, is where support will become proactive instead of reactive. So having AI models or LLMs proactively looking through data and trying to predict potential issues before the customer sees them, and alerting the support team so they can do something before that happens, will probably be like one of the next steps in support base, using AI, that I think will like reduce the likelihood of customer complaints or inquiries or frustration from their side. And lastly, this is something that we're starting to see a lot, and I think it will just keep happening more and more, which is ethical and transparent use of AI. Now, we get a lot of questions about that. We get a lot of questions about security and compliance. And I think as AI become more integrated into customer support on our day-to-days, it will be like essential to maintain a transparent and ethical view on how we're using it, how we're making sure that we can enhance the customer experience without compromising privacy or trust, which is something we take a lot of care of. We have a very nice security and compliance teams that is always
Yes.
looking out for how to do that.
Yes, people are still afraid. How is my data being used? Where is this going, right? You never know. So I think being transparent, very clear what you're doing with a customer's data or not, just be upfront from the beginning. And I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if we have a lot of like founders or engineers in the audience today, uh, but do you have any advice or any tips or tricks for those traditional engineers that are, started building regular software now, kind of moving towards building more AI software? Any tips of tricks of things that help you as an engineer to stay up with the evolving uh, landscape of AI with new techniques, experimenting could be a little bit like intimidating for those who have never had with that traditional background.
Yeah. Um, I will say keep learning, and share what you're learning with others is usually one of the best ways to keep up to date with everything that's happening. I think that's something that everyone needs to keep up. I may be a little bit weird, but diving into things I don't know is something I enjoy a lot. So that part of the intimidation is just something like I kind of like enjoy. Like the harder something is, the more attracted I am to that. I think having strong opinions but be open to considering other point of views is
Hmm.
also very useful. And lastly, uh, get a strong support system. We all have blind spots, so have people at your side that will be very willing to give you open and transparent feedback to figure that out and just be the best you can.
That's so great. Thank you for sure. Just keep learning. And hopefully that's one of the reasons that we are doing these right brack sessions, is just to really have space for people to learn from everybody, from other people's experiences. And with that, I see we have a few questions in the chat. What about let's see. I think this one is more for Pinecone, and then Ben, I think I will answer that separately. Um, let's go with this one. Somebody is asking, curious as to how. Let me answer live so people know. Curious as how you know when there are hallucinations that you can have a human intervention.
Um, that's a very good question. We have a set of we have a within free play we have a series of evaluators that we wrote down that try to figure that out, because it's not always possible to detect automatically. But we have a decent percentage of sessions that were flagged as hallucination, and when that happen, we can filter through that and just go a human and validate. But even like that, we're more and more starting to have a human in the loop, actually going through random sessions, trying to figure out where we are hallucinating and not picking it up, to try to improve that. So as much as we would love to have a fully automated system, I don't think there's a way to get away from having someone to actually look through the data.
Yeah, I think that that's also your your differentiator, right? To make sure that what you're putting forward is,
Yeah.
taking a step further just to make sure it's right.
We also
Okay.
have flags on the user side, on the UX, where you
Okay.
can say this was not useful or this was useful. or
Oh.
not. We don't like that because we feel like that's just pushing too much onto the user experience. But we do
Hmm.
have that right now where people can flag something as not useful, and we also look at that.
That's great, especially as you are learning with the new features, right? Maybe you're in a way just to kind of get constant feedback from customers at the beginning. We have one more, and this one is a little bit long. Luis, are you able to read them too?
That's
The
that's
que-
fine. I can do it if you
no,
want.
no, I can read it. I just want to make sure if I can read it, but if you can just kind of also keep an eye on
Yeah.
this one. So Ganesh is asking, I have a question about handling LLM's compute cost. Unlike traditional software where compute costs reduce as usage scales, LLM's compute costs vary linearly with usage. One option is to ask customers to use their own OpenAI API keys, but they may be concerned about hosting their own API keys in our software. Is there a recommended approach, or is there a better way to manage this cost?
Um, recommended approach is complicated. Business models vary widely from tool to tool. Uh, from an end user perspective, like a B2C kind of situation,
Mm-hmm.
I think asking someone to host their own keys is complicated. It just makes it harder to use whatever you're using. From a B2B perspective, I think it's a little bit simpler. We definitely do that with like a couple of services. And, depending on the service and the level of trust and your security standpoint, I will not have an issue with that. Um, I think that primarily you should have a way to monitor your costs per user and a way to handle graciously when that is getting to a point where where it's out of the business model. I think that it's better to handle that through the UI in a nice way than to ask different things. Um, and then use good monitoring, which is what we do. We have a various set of monitoring. We have thresholds that we allow, especially when running tests. We sometimes do that in production, and we have quite a large user base. So we use monitor and we just look like, hey, this user is using way more than everyone else. Why is that? And then we just go delve into that data to figure out what's so different about them towards others, so we can figure out what our product will be looking like in the future.
Awesome. And I'm going to also share this question with our internal team just in case we have any insights and we can share back. We got one more question from anonymous attendee. This person is asking, I'm curious how you manage access control to outputs, if that's relevant for you. Do you store access controls roles for RAG data in Pinecone, or are you solving permission in some other way?
From the users, for like the end user perspective, that's transparent. We
Mm-hmm.
handle that through our services. Like no customer can access data that they should not be accessing that. We heavily use Pinecone namespaces to handle a lot of that, to know who can access what. uh, from an internal security and compliance standpoint, we use least privilege access. Almost no one has access to production data unless it's like a DBA that needs to do something, or a sysadmin that needs to upgrade something. Um, so yeah, from the service its own, we use namespaces, and our own services handle how we filter that data and who can access that.
Awesome. Like, hopefully that answered your question. Let us know if not. I'm glad we are really awesome. We got one more from Bruno. I'm gonna answer this live since we have a couple more minutes. So Bruno is asking, how will you explain and sell RAG to a founder that don't have technical and practical knowledge of AI?
That's a very good question. I never been there actually. My founders were actually pretty excited about out of this thing when it came out. I believe that staying away from technicalities as much as you can is probably the best thing you could do. Building a POC that demonstrates the value that a rack system can have for a business, is your best bet to do that. And I think that now, especially, there's enough dev tools out there where you can easily build out a POC in a few days to demonstrate that. It may not be the most performant thing in the world, but I think it will be the best idea to explain and sell what a rack can do.
Yeah, that would be tough, right? When you're trying to convince your founder or your manager to do something, but the knowledge is limited there. But there is so much information available. Just maybe focus, as Luis mentioned, like what is going to be, what you're trying to solve for, right? Like with these rack systems, and hopefully tie back to, I always like to tie it up to either the mission of the company or where your priorities for that particular year and how those are supporting. Um, Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
We have a couple more. King Short is asked, let me answer this live. How are you managing the costs associated with MLMs? Is there a hybrid model to use higher version of LLMs for important questions and lower version for simple questions?
No, we give everyone the best possible solution we have. So we tend to optimize models for what we're using it. So if we can use like simpler, cheaper models for some things, and that works as well as higher models, we use that. If we can fine tune something like GPT-3 versus GPT-4 or 4.0, for example, we will use that just to streamline the cost. I can tell you that in the beginning, we were a lot more worried about cost than we are right now, because we, at least so far, we haven't found anyone exploiting anything in a way that will mean that our model is incorrect. One of the things that we initially did was we ran simulations with the current data that we had, and we created a small model that will simulate how much it will cost. So we just play with that, like what will happen if a user did this at this volume, and how much will it cost? What will happen if it works at the current volume that they're actually doing, and we simulated growth for some of the customers. And with that, we were pretty happy that the small safeguard that we put in place will be okay. We do have usage models for most of the things that are LLM related. Most, because there are a couple of features that are not usage based, like AI
Mm-hmm.
assist and AI summary is just on demand, and that's fine. More complicated things like drafts and answers are usage based, so that works really well.
Hopefully that helps. Let me say that we are done here. And we have one more. Actually, we have just time for one more question. And Rui is asking, I wonder if you have any insights on implementing effective hybrid search. I know you are just kind of exploring that, but if you have any quick thoughts about that.
We're still going through that, and I think for us in particularly is curious, to say the least, because our AI services team is relatively new, and they are using Pinecone, which is also relatively new for the company.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been running search for a long time in Health Scout. We have a pretty large search cluster, and we have a team that has years of experience on keywords. So they are both going to be, actually, part of the AI services team was also part of the search team in the past. So they do have a great level of knowledge on how to do that. We just need to start working on how we can combine the scoring on both searches to figure out what are the most relevant data for the context that we need. And that's something that we are still exploring on. Um, um, One of my recommendations is that using LLMs to figure out the scores is a pretty good way to start, uh, in case you don't want to dive into having your own algorithms to decide that.
For sure. Yeah, I think I have seen this a little bit more. People really want to do you know, keyword search and also vector search. So maybe that gives me ideas for next episodes of our rag brags. And we do have two more questions, but unfortunately we are at time. I'm gonna take a screenshot of these and we will follow up. We will for sure make sure to answer these either email or any other way. Uh, Luis, thank you so much for coming and joining us today with this conversation. I really enjoy all your insights uh, from all the questions that we have. I think the attendees also enjoy and hopefully they'll learn a little bit from you. If they wanted to continue the conversation with you to learn more about Help Scout, how they should connect.
I think the easiest way is through LinkedIn. You have me link in that rag drag
Mhm.
post, so
Yes.
you could all find that and just add me, and we can have a chat through there.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I will follow up with some of the questions, so the three questions that we weren't be able to answer today. If you want to join future rag brags, please visit our community site. There are many coming, and we're taking like a little weeks, a few weeks break because of the summer. But we will come full swing again in August. So keep an eye out for those emails and social posts so you can join us. Thank you again, and Luis, thank you again. I really enjoy our conversation.
Thank you very much, Valeria, for having me. I did have a
Of
good time.
course, you too. I really love it. I Customer support has a really special space in my heart.
It feels good helping people.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's something that I think everybody can relate to. It doesn't matter which industry, what role you are. It's something that everybody can relate to.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Thank you, and see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.